that, just knowing that indigenous cultures are not so stupid that they would become like a sieve, allowing everything to come through. And then when we landed at Maui Airport, I read this very beautiful explanation of aloha. And I'm not going to go through it because it's come from you, but finally I felt at home. Because it is about a worldview. It is about identity. It is about an embrace, but through a universal sharing of the values of life-giving forces. And as it says, it's not a mechanical ola, It's not a hello. It would be wrong to trivialize it into a hello. So first of all, thank you so much for the beauty you share with us. The beauty of your land, every time you give these beautiful lays, the beauty of your language. It's so wonderful to listen. And to hear the original language. I got involved in ecological activism 40 years ago. Yeah, 43 years ago. And I come from the Himalayan mountains. I grew up in the forests there. My father was a forest conservator. And then in the early 70s, I started to see the forests go. And the streams that came from those forests disappear. And I really felt like my body was being chopped away. I felt that kind of pain. And then I heard about women rising in remote villages and saying, we are going to hug these trees. Before you bring your axes, we don't have chainsaws up there, in axes. So before you kill the tree with your axe, you'll have to kill us. We're going to put our life between the tree and your axe. It took about a decade of action in different places. And my role in that movement when I decided to become a volunteer was really to write. As I say, they would have the wisdom and all the knowledge, and I would convert it into graphs and data, which is the only language the policymakers in Delhi understood. And we were able to show that the costs of destruction of the forests were higher than the pathetic money that was being made through revenues from timber trade. And one of the slogans that came out of that beautiful movement was that these forests are not timber mines. They are our lives. They are the source of our soil and water and pure air. Of course, initially the government tried to criminalize the movement, as is always the first action. And I remember a particular action in 1977 where women came out to protect the forest. By then, the government had split the response, because we used to have national contractors and companies that would come and cut the forests. And when they realized the movement was going too strong, they said, we will give local labor contracts. So the labor to cut the trees would be local. And that literally split the movement. And the men would be bidding for the labor contracts. And in a particular forest called Adwani, the chief of the village became the labor contractor, and the wife of the chief, Bachli Devi, led the movement to protect the forests. And I remember during a day they carried lanterns, and the police was there, the government was there in all its force, and they said, you see the foolish women, don't you know? It's daylight, you don't need a lantern. And said, no, the lantern's not for the sun, it's for you. Because you seem to think this is all about money. You seem to think this is about revenues. But these forests don't bring us timber and revenue. They bring us soil and water and pure air. 1978, 1 year later, we had the worst of flooding in areas which had been logged. And the government realized what the government said was true. that they were spending much more in flood relief than what they got as revenues. And now the whole world is recognizing the fact that forests actually are absorbers of carbon dioxide. Simple biological fact of photosynthesis was forgotten. And I remember in those days when they said pure air, we said, oh, that's a ridiculous thing. Where do forests give us pure air? Today the whole world scientific community is talking about the ecological functions of forests. And because that movement grew from the ground, the issues of the spiritual values of the forest. I remember walking into the forest with the women and they'd take off their slippers at the edge before they went to collect the fodder or the fuel. And I said, did you get a thorn? Why did you take up your slipper? And they said, no, I'm entering the forest. She's our sacred mother. And I have to apologize. I have to tell her that I have to take fodder for my animals, fuel to cook our meat, but I promise I will never take more than is absolutely necessary. And because I have to say that prayer, I have to take off my slippers. So that issue of the sacred earth, the sacred forest was very much part of the movement. It was the issue of sovereignty. One of the calls that came out of Chipko was built on earlier movements of 1930. I don't know if these stories were told to you, but in 1930 is the year Gandhi walked to the beach and picked up salt. When the British tried to make it illegal for Indians to make salt, when the sea was right there. And he walked to the beach, picked up the salt and said, nature gives it for free. We need it for our survival. We will continue to make salt. We will not obey your laws. And that then triggered our freedom struggle on a whole new level. It was the same year where the freedom struggle made a declaration of Swaraj, which translates into home rule. That we're going to have home rule, we won't be governed by the British. Interestingly, tomorrow, President Obama will be presiding over our Republic Day celebrations. And we've done an open letter to him that, you're coming on a day that celebrates home rule, so don't think you're here on behalf of Monsanto. There's a wonderful cartoon that's circulating on Twitter where Obama's walking through the door and he's got a dog, and the dog has Obama on the leash. And our Prime Minister is saying, you're very welcome without your pet. So issues of home rule are what brought us freedom. They're going to bring us freedom in the future. Chipko, my first engagement, we had because it was not defined from outside, it was so totally defined from the mountains and our villages. Issues of social justice, environmental protection, indigenous culture were all one. They were not separate. We never had to try and make